You had a good. Oh, welcome to 44 and 1. I'm GVizzle. This is Tempest.
Yeah.
What's in the news today? You had a good news headline for us today.
Oh, fuck. I've got to look that up.
Starting off strong.
Yeah. This is what happens when it's impromptu. Okay, so.
Oh, I have one.
Yeah.
We could do both while you're looking for yours. A Southwest passenger, this happened in April of this year. A Southwest passenger was arrested for masturbating 4 times during a flight.
Oh, only 4.
The flight, oh, wait. It sounds like only 4. Like if you're traveling from Australia to like Toronto, that's a hike. That's a full day flight. He was traveling from Seattle to Phoenix, which is so the flight from Seattle to Phoenix is
about 4 or 5 hours.
2 hours and 51 minutes.
Really? Fuck.
So 3 hours. So he masturbated 4 times in 3 hours.
Yeah, I think we've all been there, but not in a flight.
I've not been there. I don't have the wrist strength. But do you ever watch? Was it The Sopranos?
I've seen a couple of episodes.
There was a character in it. I forget his name, and it's been a long time, so I'm probably making shit up. But he was like a chronic masturbator, so they would like tape his fingers together, like put like mitts. And then I think he may have like lost his hands at one point because somebody was just like over it. I can't remember if that's the case.
But that's just going to turn him into a frotter. Do you know what frotterism is?
I do not.
It's someone that likes to rub their genitals on things and people.
Frotter, really?
F-R-O-T-T-E-R? E-U-R.
E-U-R, a frotteur.
Yeah, a frotteur.
It's fancy that way.
Yeah.
A frotteur.
I do like to partake in the frotteuring.
Yeah, frotter sounds dirty, but frotteur sounds fancy.
Yeah. Maybe there's a class difference.
Maybe.
Yeah. If you're Prince Charles and you're frottering, you're a frotteur. Whereas if you're me, you're a peasant or a pleb.
Just
then you're
a pervert.
Frotter. Yeah. Yeah.
Frotter. How do you? I guess no. I know how you know because you used to work with sex offenders. That's how you know.
Yeah. And I did a degree in psychology.
Yeah, because that's not the kind of thing that like I would have picked up on the street or anything.
Yeah.
That's not common knowledge. But thank you for your kick-ass fact.
No worries. For once,
I'll try not to quote it back to you as one of your own.
I have no defense for that.
So you had a news story too.
Yeah.
Chris from the future here. Just wanted to say we're talking about a very specific group here of people who will stop at nothing just for the sake of vanity and beauty. What we're not talking about is people with things like body dysmorphic disorder or image issues or other mental health issues. It's just about vanity. And anyway, on with the show.
And if it was, so quick caveat is that I find this kind of funny because it's all about vanity, and that is the only reason why it exists as a thing. And if it was an actual medical condition, I wouldn't be laughing about it. But a top plastic surgeon in the UK has warned that tens of thousands of men are putting themselves at risk of getting enlarged breasts and needing surgery due to steroid abuse.
Tens of thousands of men who have come to him because he's an expert from around the world, or tens of thousands of men in the UK
in the UK alone. And basically he's done 600 operations since 2020. So that's during the pandemic when not as many of these things were happening, and he's already done 600 surgeries.
I wonder why. Did it happen during the pandemic because they weren't able to work out as aggressively, so they weren't able to maintain the steroid upkeep or the work that would go along with that, and so everything started to sag?
No idea.
I wonder if as their boobs grew, if their testicles returned.
Yeah. No.
Because that is one of the side effects.
Yeah, their testicles won't return with the boobs. Like they're not related. So the testicle shrinkage would be in line with the boob growth because you're basically fucking up your testosterone and stuff.
But then wouldn't is the boob growth from use or from stopping use?
Oh, no, it's from using it.
Oh, that
Yeah, so it
testosterone
basically has like, I don't know a better way of saying it, but almost like a anti-masculine thing. So it makes you grow boobs and shrinks your testicles.
But I always thought that it was like it would help you build the muscles in there because breasts are just mostly fatty tissue and not muscle. So like,
Yeah.
wouldn't the muscle grow and look like big pecs and not boobs?
Well, I think it's also that like when you take these, because they're a certain type of steroid, because like different steroids can do different things. So like there's some steroids that might make women hairier and that sort of thing. But these type of steroids that men take for working out and for vanity, that encourages muscle mass, but it doesn't. There's no density to the muscle. Then there's no stamina. There's no like it's just purely looks, and then there's no substance to it.
So they're not even like working out in order to maintain that muscle or help them build the muscle. They just want to look like them. It's like people who get like implants. Like there's a couple. There's a guy who wanted to look like Ken, and he had like all these weird implants.
Yeah. It's like that. Like they want to take a shortcut to looking good, so they have to work out. But like, so say like you and I will work out, and then we'll get like some reduction in fat. We'll get a little bit of muscle growth. But the steroids basically amplify that effect.
It does. I mean, is it worth it though? I mean, there's so many side effects. Breasts aside, like there was the testicle issue, which for some would be. I mean, you think if you're doing it for vanity, losing your testicles would kind of make you a bit self-conscious about that. Yeah. But then also like there's like the aggression that comes along with it. Like there's so many other
mood swings,
side effects. Yeah, like just do the work, man. Like maybe you're not meant to be that big. Like maybe, and like I've always heard like people who have a lower stature and height have because their muscles are shorter, it's easier for them to build more muscle, where longer muscles, if you're like 6+ feet tall, it'll be harder to build that scope of muscle. Because of that, like sometimes you just have to,
it's just your body type,
like just go with it.
And if you've got like a really fast metabolism, it's going to be harder to get mass and all of that. And I think that some of these men are going to have body dysmorphia, so I have a lot of compassion for those men. But what I guess I'm taking aim at a little bit is the men that are doing it purely for vanity, and they don't want to put the hard work in, and they don't even research what these fucking things do. So like a lot of these guys don't know these side effects.
Yeah,
they just take it.
There was years and years ago, I think it was Priscilla Presley. She was hosting these parties where women would get this, like, there was some doctor, foreign doctor, who had this like magical face stuff that they were injecting into their faces. And a couple of them actually developed like some major infections and deformities in their faces because they were literally injecting themselves with like the equivalent of motor oil. There was nothing medicinal. There was nothing actually medical or professional in these injections. They were just shoving motor oil into their faces in this attempt to look younger. And I get maintenance, right? Like there are times I look at my, what they call me 11s, right? I look at my 11s and I'm like, yeah, a little bit of like a little shot, even it out. But I would never, that's not for me. I get a little bit of maintenance, but to remake your entire self. And there are some things that no amount of work can do, right? Like no amount of push-ups is going to get rid of these, but push-ups will, you know, help you. So like you could do the work, but sometimes you just need to do it to the scope of what you can do.
Yeah. And like, and again, I feel like I need to keep reiterating it for the viewers as well. Like I'm not talking about the people with mental health issues. We are talking about the vain people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if I would love to think that someone who has body dysmorphia would be able to seek and have access to the resources they would need to be able to work through that before going to that route. Although we know that's not the case. There are lots of eating disorders and other issues, but like doing stuff just for the sake of vanity, and some people have no issue with it, and that's fine, but the side effects of it are the one thing that I don't think a lot of people consider.
And I think that I certainly like, I don't know what the future holds for me, but I wouldn't want to mess with my face, because the face shows everything about you, like every line, every wrinkle, every micro expression and everything. It's how people communicate with you. It's how you tell a lot about each other. And when people like have Botox and all that stuff, first of all, you're going to need to keep doing it forever now. Like you do it, now you're going to have to keep doing it because they fade and all that stuff, and it needs to be maintained. But then also you lose flexibility in your face. You can't communicate with people anymore, like as efficiently as you could before, because you lose all of like the micro expressions and things.
Do you remember you used to watch the show Lie to Me?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There was one episode where, was it Lie to Me or Elementary? I can't remember. One of those shows. They were at a funeral and they thought that maybe the wife had something to do with it. And then one of the characters, the female character, because I know it was a female and male. I don't know if it was Tim Roth or Johnny Lee.
Miller.
What's his face? Miller, thank you. So the woman who was with them was saying but look at her face. Like you can't really read anything from her face. Like she doesn't look all that upset. So the guy, whoever it was, broke a light bulb so that it like smashed. And then in that smash, it was Lie to Me. In that smash, he was watching her face and her face didn't react. And he was like, nope, she's had Botox. We can't tell. Because
yes, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Like she couldn't register any look of surprise because of that. You know what makes me wonder about that? Because a lot of actors are going that route. Some a little too aggressively. Like nothing, I don't think there's anything more beautiful than a woman who is aged gracefully, like Helen Mirren. Yeah. That's beside the point. But how are you going to make realistic period pieces?
Exactly.
Like it's already stretched the imagination that they already all have like beautiful white perky teeth.
Yeah,
no body hair. I can go with that. But if it's like, 1400s and she's got big fake boobs and Botox. It kind of takes you out of the believability of it.
And it kind of, it limits their acting ability as well, because they can't communicate to the audience, like the subtleties of what's going on. And some of the best actors are so aware of their own body and facial expressions, they can control that and communicate things to you without saying anything. That's what the best actors can do.
And it's unfortunate about the societal pressure of it, right? Like a lot, I mean, yes, there's body dysmorphia, which again, we're not talking about that, but the vanity, like these guys who are getting now breast reductions essentially because they were seeking a shortcut to buffness. Yeah. But then like looking at actors, like so a lot of them start what they call, I think they call it like pre-work or pre-maintenance or something, where it's like they're starting now with injections and whatnot in like their early 20s so that it's maintaining their youthfulness longer. Jesus. And then when they start doing it later, it won't be as obvious or aggressive. And like I mean, again, my job is not dependent on my looks, but I can't, like, just the pressure of having, like, even if you don't want to do it, it could affect your livelihood to not do it.
Yeah, and it also affects the people watching it, because then they get unrealistic expectations of their own life. And I just kind of feel like if Hollywood gave up on that, then it would become the norm that it wasn't done. And then, it would change societal norms.
And I think it would help with a lot of body dysmorphia, because a lot of that stems from people who are looking at magazines and movies and TV shows, and they don't know that that's a lot of, that's a lot of medical work that has gone into that. But also, if you're looking at a magazine, it's likely majorly airbrushed. If it is someone in the public figure, like they've got potentially chefs and personal trainers, and their job is to look good, right? Like if your job is to look good, then you look good. But it does create that. It's like when I was losing weight, everything that I saw in media was the same body shape, right? Like there's a very similar body shape. You don't often see women in movies who are like, or TV, who are very pear-shaped. And if they're larger women, then they are still very symmetrical and voluptuous. So you have the extreme of one shape or another. And so when I was losing weight, I just thought, okay, as my body gets smaller, it's going to fit into this shape. And then when I got to the end, and I was like, why is my ass flat? Where did my boobs go? How come why don't I look like everybody else looks? But nobody looks like that.
No, nobody does. Exactly. And then the other thing that frustrates me with Hollywood is that anytime they have somebody that's larger, they're the comedy role. They're the piss take character. They're never a serious character.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the comic relief. They're the friend. They're something else. And and like what drives me crazy when you see like plus size models and they are still in like wearing a size 8 or 10. And it's
it makes no sense. And then they had that model recently that on Sports Illustrated. And and then
people went nuts.
It was bizarre because they've had really big models on some other things before, which I wouldn't say were curvy women. And like, there's like a really weird, like, I don't know, like a jump that they have. They claim that somebody's curvy and voluptuous, but they're not. And then they have other people that they say on the other side of curvy and voluptuous, but they're not. They're like a size 8, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's this big bit in the middle of actual curvy, voluptuous women or just like plus size models that are genuinely plus size, like the Sports Illustrated lady. She looked amazing.
Yeah.
And then people go crazy about it because they compare her to the other models.
Which nobody looks like that. Like, it's amazing to me. Like, every time, so I watch America's Got Talent, and every time I see Heidi Klum, I'm like, she's had like 4 children, and she's around my age. It's like, woman, like, but that's her job, right? And that's been her livelihood for the majority of her life. But like, I love seeing, and I see it, you probably see it more in commercials than we do in like regular TV shows, but in commercials, there are now average healthy, not that they're not looking healthy, but average, like, size 12, 14 women, which is the average size in a lot of countries. And I know that sizing is different in the UK than it is in Canada and the US, but like seeing a woman who actually looks more like people I will run into at the grocery store being represented on television is kind of like that. Can we just be realistic, please? Like, like, I didn't need, when I was watching TV shows, for the main characters to be stunning. I wasn't watching it for that. I was watching it for the story. So like, let's hire
good actors.
like I okay, so I watched Castle, and the female police officer in Castle was stunning. Like, she was this 6 foot tall, gorgeous. Not to say that police officers wouldn't be, but she was always wearing like running in 4-inch heels. Like, let's just try to make it a bit believable.
Yeah, and the other thing is go following this train of thought is like, because men and women, we both do have expectations placed on us but they're in different ways. And I find the ones placed on women quite disturbing, in the sense that, like, whenever you see a couple on TV, the bloke can be whatever he is, but the woman is like old enough to be his daughter. Not that I have a problem with age gap relationships, but like, but like, she's always younger, and they don't look like a couple. They don't look like they go together.
Yeah, you very rarely see the larger woman fit man combination, but you often see the larger man fit woman combination. Like all the time. King of Queens is one of them. There was another show with John, one of the Belushi brothers, Jim Belushi. He was in a show that did that. Like, when Roseanne started back in the way day, and like they were both large, it was like, that's normal. Like, that feels like what a normal family would look like, right? Like that, and they would just need to have more than that, more like.
And even though like there is like evolutionary trends where women would look more about resources and wealth and all those other things in the bloke rather than the other way around, but like, A, that's not a trend that would hold true for everybody, and B, that's not true in the TV shows either, because a lot of the guys that these women are with are just average blokes. Like, there's nothing special about them, so it's just unrealistic in a way. And then that puts pressure on men as well, like in like a weird way, where men would feel like they're not achieving if they don't have that kind of lifestyle, if they can't afford the things that they see in the TV shows and the kind of women that these average blokes run around with in the TV shows and all that stuff. But like, it sets up wrong expectations for men in terms of what they think they should look for in a partner, and then they have false expectations on their life as well, of what should be important.
And for women, it kind of does the same, because then the women that they usually pair up with these men, while they're beautiful, they are not like they dress them down in a way so that they're not as attractive as they really are, but you know they're really super attractive. So then like a woman who is of that in that space is gonna like, oh, is that is that the best I could do? Because then the women that they actually push out as like, oh, stunning are with the stunning guys. So it's like sets it up that you can only date within your look range.
Yeah.
Like there was a movie Melissa McCarthy did, I think it was Spy or something. And at the end, her and I think it's Jude Law kind of, or someone end up together or something. And it's kind of like, yes, yes, finally. So after I had lost weight, and for anyone who doesn't know, I lost 140 pounds. After I'd lost 140 pounds, and people that I had met after I had lost weight, when they found out that I had lost weight, like the 3 questions I got the most often was, of course, how did I do it? Always about carbs. And so like when you met your husband, were you Yeah, I was like, yeah. When I was 283 pounds, I was still worthy of love. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't change anything. And it's like, also, I didn't lose weight for my husband. I lost it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 100% for me.
My husband loves me both ways.
My husband jokes that like he's had like 5 different wives because when we met, I was obese, then I lost weight, then I gained weight again, and then I lost weight again. So he's like every 5-7 years I get a new wife, and I was like, let's not.
He's wondering what he's going to get next.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the secret to a happy marriage.
Variety is the spice of life, they say.
Yeah.
Think of that doctor, though, to bring it back to that story. Think of that doctor. He has done 600 of these surgeries, which is probably not his only surgery. He is making a killing. Money, hand over fist, he's probably making.
Probably not, because it's the UK. So
he'd
be paid a salary. So like these surgeons, though, they have like 2 ways that they earn money. They kind of split their time between NHS time and private clinic time. And a lot of them make their money by having a private clinic, and they get loads of money out of that. And they do things like conduct research, and they develop new medical devices or procedures. And then they kind of do the NHS time as well, because otherwise there'd be no surgeons. And then so a lot of them kind of, there's a lot of things people don't know about the NHS like that. But a lot of these surgeries, it doesn't say like where they, if they were sort of elective surgeries or not. So an elective surgery you'd have to pay for here.
I wonder how these men are feeling, because a lot of them, I mean, there's tens of thousands, not all of them have went into it with just vanity in mind. Like there had to be some who generally had body dysmorphia. I wonder if they are taking the time to try to assess and diagnose and then offer that additional support that like, you did this because you weren't feeling good about yourself. Now you've got to have the surgery. And then until that's done, you're not going to feel good about yourself. We don't know how you're going to feel about the scars, if any. Like, I wish they would just extend that to let's take care of your mental health while we're taking care of the other. Yeah.
And that's the thing, because this is probably the worst thing about the NHS is that it doesn't provide aftercare like that. We have very bad mental health support, and the mental health support that is there is very basic and is really shit, and it's done by people that aren't really like good at it. So
that's too bad.
Like you're probably better off getting a friend and going for a coffee, I would think, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, because some of the things that I've noticed is that there's just no depth to it, and like if your problem is too complicated, or like you present with a problem that's too complicated, they won't investigate and say, well, I can't do anything for you, go speak to someone else. And they might refer you to another service, or they'll tell you to go look somewhere else. But they won't take the time to try and understand what you're really trying to say and see if they can adapt their methods for you, because they're not very well trained. And it's no disrespect to them. It's I'm having a dig at the service that they're not training staff properly, and they're not kind of giving them good enough insight into therapy and therapeutic processes. And to be able to help people properly.
So then what's the benefit of that service? Is it really just a referral service to other more capable doctors?
Well, thing is though, like the waiting lists are so long. I think that most people don't actually get the mental health support they need until they get really, really sick and end up either trying to hurt themselves or kill themselves, or they end up in like a psychiatric unit or something. For the people that are really severely ill, it has to get really bad. Like for example, like with anorexia, it receives disproportionately much less attention for the problem for the problems caused by the condition, and to the cost to society, to the how much the condition affects individual patients. And when you compare it against other disorders get way more money and time and resources. And anorexia, anorexia is very easy to treat, but people aren't identified early enough. And then so they get so far advanced that they're basically skeletons go into being presented to services. And then by that point, it's often too late.
Yeah.
So because there's not, and then, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. And I know we're going off on another topic, but like what's also scary for me about anorexia is that there are so many they call them pro-ana groups.
Yeah.
So it teaches you how to hide your condition, how to hide your body, how to do that. So like it's so insidious that you try to get help for the people who are suffering from it, but then they've got this whole other group that's like celebrating that they ate a celery stick in a day and that's it.
Yeah. And also there's other side effects to the lack of eating that you can, because it kind of makes you feel drunk and it gives you a little bit of euphoria and lightheadedness. And then so people can get addicted to that feeling, as well as all the other psychological issues of the anorexia. The actual feeling, starving yourself, is an addictive feeling for some people.
Well, I know, like I used to work with someone who was bulimic, and she said that it was when she was going through that phase of her life, it was because she was, disassociating from her mother. She had a relationship that was ending. She wasn't happy in her job. She was trying to figure herself out. And she's like, everything felt so out of control that was what I could control. And so when she would purge, she felt like she was regaining control. So it wasn't just like the physical act of it or trying to maintain herself at a certain weight. It was for her a means of empowering her. And unless you find a good way of finding a different means of empowerment, that's going to have a big draw. Exactly.
And this is the thing, is like people don't realize all of the myriad ways you can come to mental illness, like sticking with anorexia for a second. I've got a friend who has schizotypal personality disorder, so she's prone to magical thinking and strange beliefs and stuff, but her mum was developing an eating disorder, and so she wanted to show her mum like how bad it was. So she started to not eat herself to show her mum by example how much damage her mum was doing to herself by doing the damage to herself. And then she actually ended up becoming anorexic for several years, and she had to go be admitted to hospital a few times and stuff.
Did it have the effect on her mom that she thought it did?
Nope.
Or was that something that they bonded over afterwards?
No, her mom was very disturbed. So yeah.
Well, that's a shame. This went from a lighthearted story about steroid boobs to
yeah.